down. There's been a state of emergency declared in both the city of Los Angeles and LA County now, and the two forces will be working together undoubtedly until this is all calmed down. We're going to go back to the telecopter. Cliff Welsh is up, as he has been all night. Another big fire breaking out.
The Los Angeles riots of 1992 have been considered one of the worst riots that Western America has faced in over a century. A city lit on fire, fueled by hate, racism, a corrupt system, and all on top, police brutality. For just under a week, LA was a living hell filled with police, crime, and death. A city once known for being the beach and movie industry capital of the world was changed forever to be known as the home of one of America's deadliest and most notorious riots ever caught on film. But what caused it? This is the Rodney King trial. Let's go back to 1991. This is Rodney Glenn King. He was a victim of severe police brutality at 26 years old. On March 3rd, 1991, after a night of heavy drinking and watching basketball with his friends, Rodney gets in his car and attempts to drive himself home drunk. When getting onto the I-220 freeway, California Highway Patrol attempts to pull King over for speeding. King flees the police, soon getting out only 3 more LAPD cars after him, but a police helicopter as well. After 8 miles of fleeing, King pulls over in a residential neighborhood. King gets out of the car and goes onto his hands and knees. Unbeknownst to LAPD, resident George Holliday pulled out his camera and videotaped the arrest. What he captured was soon to be the most notorious police brutality tape in America. George Holliday captured LAPD officers Stacy Kuhn, Ted Freseno, Lawrence Powell, and Timothy Wynn beat drunken Rodney King. This is the first minute of the tape George captured. King was admitted to the county jail under felony evasion, resisting arrest, and driving under intoxication. George Holliday, the one who captured it all on video, promptly gave it to the Los Angeles local news, the KTLA News. After KTLA aired it, CNN broadcasted the news globally. Now, LAPD had now a tarnished reputation. After 4 days, on March 7th, Chief of LAPD, Daryl Gates, fired and prosecuted officers Kuhn, Brizeno, Powell, and Wynn, and was indicted by the Los Angeles grand jury. All 4 were charged with assault with a deadly weapon and excessive use of force by a police officer. While the world was mad at the LAPD, officers and the attorneys focused all their efforts on moving the trial out of LA County, hoping to get their clients less of a punishment. This did not work out in their favor at first. On May 16th, Judge Bernard Carmens denied the motion. This was in full effect until California Court of Appeals overturned the movement, and the venue was then changed to the Simi Valley Courthouse just under 50 miles away. The officers were kept in county jail for just under a year. When just after the 1-year anniversary of the beating, on March 5th, 1992, with a jury of 260 people, the most infamous police beating trial commenced. Starting off the trial, Chief Prosecutor Terry White played the entirety of the beating video. After viewing the video, Kuhn's attorney, Daryl Monger, blamed the entire situation on King, while attorney for Brizeno, John Barrett, confronted the court, stating that Officer Powell was out of control and that the video proved his client tried to stop the beating. California Highway Patrol officer Melanie Singer became the star witness. He went on to testify,
Officer Powell came up to the right of King and in a matter of seconds took out his baton and had it in a power swing. He struck the driver across the top of his cheekbone, splitting his face, top of his ear, to his chin.
On March 17th, all prosecution rested. All evidence collected, disregarding the videotape, only rated to 2 of the 4 officers, Kuhn and Powell. Evidence against both Wynn and Brizeno were almost non-existent. Defense hearings started March 17th as well. A number of on-scene officers stepped up as defense witnesses, most stating that King spat and repeatedly cussed at them, while others stated that King in the emergency room told Sergeant Kuhn, "I love you," repeatedly. Sergeant Kuhn himself was a defendant as well. His story was that he believed King was on PCP. He stated that escalating force from multiple warnings to tasing to finally metal batons was perfectly reasonable, as PCP could cause a person to act out in horrific ways, and that PCP can cause a person to become nearly incapable of being incapacitated. Powell, however, gave very lengthy answers to any question, saying, quote,
"I was completely scared and for my life. Scared to death that if the guy got back up, he was going to take my gun away from me.
Finally offering his final defense that
I was just following orders. Everybody out there was responsible for their own actions."
Back to Brizeno. He kept his defense that he had no understanding of the issue. His testimony turned out to be better than any key witness called in. His statements were almost all against Officer Powell. He thought Powell was out of control, excessive, and unlike himself. He stated that if King moved, they hit them. As Terry White showed the court, all Brizeno was involved in was a single stomp on King's shoulder as Powell was reaching for the handcuffs, saying that Brizeno only did it to stop the other officers from beating King anymore. Terry White closed out his argument by stating that the tape also proved that Powell beat King in the head, which led Powell to lie on his report 26 times, as well as commit perjury on his testimony. And, saving his last trick for the end of the statement, White walks up to Powell, points at him, and shouted,
"This is the man. Look at him."
This concluded the state trial, leaving the fate of the officers to the jury. The jury debated amongst themselves for 7 days. The verdict of acquittal was reached quickly for Wynn and Brizeno, with less so for Kuhn. All debate was now up against Powell. In those 7 days, after weighing their options, 8 of the 260 jurors wanted to acquit Powell of all charges. But the remaining 252 jurors wanted to charge Powell for a single assault charge. It was settled, and on the very fateful day of April 29th, 1992, at 3:15 p.m., the jury announced the verdict. Ted Brizeno, acquitted. Timothy Wind, acquitted. Stacy Kuhn, charged with 1 count of violating King's rights. Lawrence Powell, charged with 1 count of violating King's rights. And in less than 2 hours, Los Angeles was on fire. The riots have started. The riots lasted for 5 days. President Bush finally had to step in, telling all that federal prosecution would happen. And on August 9th, another chance at justice was given. In front of a Los Angeles courthouse, Powell, Kuhn, Wynn, and Brizeno were all back on trial. When the second trial commenced, the verdict was announced at 7 o'clock in the morning to prevent rioting. Brizeno, not guilty, acquitted. Wynn, not guilty, acquitted. Kuhn, guilty on all counts, 30 months federal prison. Powell, guilty of all counts, 30 months federal prison. With 2 out of the 4 guilty, Los Angeles was at peace again. Sadly, Rodney King passed away on June 17th, 2012 from drowning. He was declared dead at 47